Hey there! So last week I talked about what I love about owning a multifamily property, and this week let's jump into the reality check of things that I hate about owning a multifamily property. Now, for the record, I don't really hate these things, but sometimes adulting is hard and you just want someone else to take the reins, but give yourself a pep talk and take control. Now I'm going to give you the real deal on what you need to consider before jumping into owning an investment property. Hey there, my name is Jess Powers. I'm a realtor with Coastal Properties Group and I serve buyers and sellers throughout Rhode Island and Southern Mass. So this is my YouTube channel all about living in the Hope State. I post videos every week, so hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. So let's jump in. First of all, if you live in the multifamily, you have to share your space with other people and there is just no getting around that. So this means there are certain concessions you're going to have to make, mostly noise and the shared use of things like laundry or parking and outdoor space. But as the landlord, you get to set the terms and the expectations for your tenants. A really clear lease that covers all the bases is really important, and communication is key. Now here's a pro tip. I've found some really great online tools for landlords like Cozy to collect rent. There are also background checking apps that I can help you with. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, so make sure you get help. Tenants move, and that means you have to go through the process of getting the apartment ready and finding new tenants. The good news is there are always people looking for clean and safe rental units, and if you price your rental unit appropriately and you know where and how to advertise your listing in multiple places online, you should have a good pool of potential renters to choose from. And if you work with the right real estate agent, he or she should be able to be willing to help you anytime. Now, I offer to list apartments for free for all of my clients who buy multifamily properties that they own or occupy. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. Here's another pro tip. Have the apartment professionally cleaned. It's the right thing to do, and like most things in life, if you plan for it, it won't be a big deal. Plus, your new tenants are going to be really happy, so you're starting the relationship off on a really positive note. Now, speaking of tenants, you do have to manage your tenants, and that seems to be the #1 deterrent that I hear. Now, I can honestly tell you that my overall experience with my tenants, it's been positive. Now, that's not to say that all of my tenants have been awesome, because they haven't, or that I haven't experienced issues, from coping with rent payment delays to tenants who don't get along with others in the house to those that weren't particularly respectful of the space, i.e. slobs. But I've been able to resolve all of those issues one way or another, and the key has been communication and proper support. Now, I've had to learn a lot of hard lessons, especially as a people pleaser who has a hard time with confrontation. But I've learned the systems that I need to put in place to set clear expectations from the get-go with all of my tenants, and I've been willing to work with people on a human level when there are problems. And I also try to address problems that tenants have, like maybe they have a broken appliance. You gotta resolve that immediately, and I can't stress that enough. You've gotta have the right support in place to be able to effectively manage your tenants and your property, and I think a big part of that support is your real estate agent. Now, another important aspect is having a savings account in place so that you can address issues when they come up. You gotta realize that owning a multifamily is akin to owning a small business. And if you're in a single family property, well, you may be able to ignore that leaking faucet for years or a broken dryer, but you expect your tenants to abide by the terms of the lease, and your end of the deal is to provide an apartment with agreed upon condition with certain appliances that work. If you expect your tenants to stick to the term, you better as well. And not being able to afford the repairs is not an acceptable excuse. So that requires some budgeting and planning. Now, I recommend that you maintain a savings account for repairs that has at least $6,000 in it at all times for operating expenses. Now, there's also a great rule that you'll find a lot of investors float. It's called the 50% rule, and that maintains that half of your rental income will be used to cover expenses. That's a big picture look. Some years will cost you less, some more. For example, maybe the roof needs to be replaced or the house repainted. So every property is going to be different, and analyzing what a property is going to need over the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, well, that's something that you should look at before buying and really try to understand what you're going to need to keep in your operating account. Now, here's the thing. If the current pandemic has shown us anything, it's that we never know what's coming around the bend. So in the same vein as budgeting for operating expenses, I recommend you have a reserve budget for at least 6 months of your mortgage payments that you maintain at all times in a savings account. If the numbers work for the property, you can make this happen. And even some loan options, it might be a requirement that your lender has in order to qualify you for the loan. It's also why it's smart to understand all of your loan options. Hey, rather than putting 20% down, if you're gonna live in the property, you may wanna reserve some of that cash to put directly into your operating account. That way, if you have excess at the end of the year, well, you can always just make a payment directly to the principal balance of your mortgage. So there it is. From sharing your space, to finding and managing tenants, to making sure you've got adequate savings in place to maintain the property and cover your mortgage at all times, owning a multifamily brings a lot of pros and cons that you really gotta weigh. Now, like I said in my first video, it's been an incredible opportunity for me, and it's really made a positive impact in my life. Now, got any questions for me? Well, reach out. I'm always here to help.